Welcome to Grammar, y'all, and thanks for visiting. If you want some chill and purposeful grammar knowledge, make sure you subscribe. Today, we're going to talk about how to teach passive voice in the classroom. If you need a definition of what active voice is and what passive voice is, check out the video below. So we're going to start with 4 steps that you can use to teach passive voice. Now, it's important to note a couple of things about these steps. First of all, they're pretty transferable. You can use these steps with many different grammatical concepts. Number 2, I want us to look at these steps a little holistically. First of all, I want you to know I do not start with the definition of what passive voice is. Instead, I'm asking students to see how passive voice works in the world. Then I'm asking them to consider some situations where passive voice might occur and to create their own sentences. Notice I'm not talking about what's right here or what's wrong here. Sometimes they might not create passive voice when you want them to. But when we talk about teaching grammar rhetorically, it's not about right or wrong necessarily. It's about what is the best fit for this situation. And the last thing I want you to notice about these steps is that there's a lot of play aspects here, playing around with language, playing around with situations, and seeing where students land. So, if you're ready for this kind of adventure into rhetorical grammar instruction, let's go. So step number 1, you want to give students examples of how this language construction, passive voice, works in the real world. So give them a scenario. You're babysitting your little sister. While you're in the kitchen making her dinner, you hear a crash in her room. You run in to find her standing over a broken lamp. What happened, you ask? The lamp got broke, she says. So your sister did a really smart rhetorical move here, and we need to give your students an opportunity to consider why did she choose the language that she did? Because there are lots of ways she could have said that. And here are just a few examples. Now, I would recommend not showing students the terms here, the active voice and the passive voice. That's really just for you. But showing them a continuum like this and asking them, why did your sister choose the option that she did, really gets students thinking about what language for what purpose. One example, though, is not enough. You want to give them enough to start being able to identify patterns. And so give them a few more scenarios, like you can see here. Again, notice I have not marked which ones of these sentences are active voice and passive voice. After this, and you've given them some examples and talked about what patterns they're seeing, the next thing is you want to give them the opportunity to create some sentences themselves. You can give them scenarios and ask them to write some sentences. One sentence where they accept the blame and one sentence where they may not accept the blame for what happened. Once students have had an opportunity to create some sentences, collect those ones that are using active and passive and talk about them with the class as a whole. When you're looking at these sentences that students have created, ask them questions about the patterns that they're noticing and the characteristics of these sentences. You can also ask them, why would you want to de-emphasize the doer in these sentences? So once we have gone over a lot of students' examples and we have noticed the patterns that are happening in the passive voice sentences, that is when we can show them a definition. So I'm not going to go over the definition here because again, it's in the video linked below, but you want them to notice the verbs and the by construction. Feel free to use the by zombies trick. So you can also emphasize to students that they already know how to use this grammatical construction because they've created it in the scenarios you just told them. It makes students feel better when things don't seem so far out of reach. And when they know they can create it themselves, they're going to feel a whole lot better about learning what the name of this construction is. Once students have the definition, give them more opportunities for play and see if they can purposefully use passive or at least identify and tell the why. Here is one example of a scenario. Feel free to use this for your own classroom. All of today's materials are in a PDF at the bottom. So remember, you can transfer these 4 steps to just about any grammatical concept. It's all about play and purpose, y'all. I want to pull the lens out real quickly before we say goodbye today, because it's not just about teaching them how to use passive voice, but you want to integrate passive voice into your curriculum. This is not a one and done kind of thing. So passive voice works really well with specific themes that we talk about in the English Language Arts classroom, such as power or silence or justice or control. And it also aligns well with certain texts that we teach in the English Language Arts classroom, largely nonfiction texts, but honest to goodness, I've never read a murder mystery that doesn't use passive voice. Thanks so much for joining me today. Y'all take care of yourselves. You can put the sentences from the previous step up on the board if you feel like your sentences don't do things. Well, they do. Anyways, you can put the sentences from the previous step up on the... I got it this time. Yeah. Let's take that out. That's not good.